we're big enough. We do enough volume for me to have these 3 ISAs to really kind of take place of a third-party call center.
And are you literally, you have coverage 7 days a week, most waking hours?
Most days a week. I mean, so, I'm an engineer. So I ran, when are all of our calls? When do they likely happen? What time? So I have, 90% of the working week, one of our VAs is ready to answer it live. And so that's been great. The other times there's only, 2% of the calls happen that time, and we just hit them up the next day.
Yep. And answering a live call in your business is really key.
Yeah. I mean, statistically, we know that's the key. Yes.
Today, I am joined by Sean Taggy, the COO and partner of Memphis Investment Group. Sean, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thank you so much, Dan. I'm stoked to be on here. Honored to have you to be on here with you.
Yeah.
Ready to talk about some good stuff.
So let's give the audience a little background information about the company that you run. I love, and I just want to shout out here, I love what you shared with me earlier. You guys have a spreadsheet which tracks return on investment and daily tasks with your virtual assistant company. So we're going to dive deep into that. But before we do, let's just hear a little bit about your company so we can set the stage for the audience.
Sure. Yeah. We are a house flipping company, a turnkey company. So instead of flipping it to like a homeowner, we're flipping it to an investor who's going to buy it and keep it as a rental, and we'll property manage. I have 2 other partners, Jim Reedy and Brad Reedy. Jim's been doing business in here for 40 years in Memphis. So nice. I kind of just fill in the cracks for them. I'm more the organized, the operations guy handling the day-to-day tasks, and they're out achieving their big vision. And I'm trying to get it done for them.
I love it, man.
Streamlined. Yep. So it's a great trio there. Yeah.
You have a weird background too. Like you used to work on hearts. So how did you go from hearts to real estate?
Yeah, I did artificial heart research as a biomedical engineer. I loved it. I loved, helping, progress the medical field, and I had saving lives with artificial hearts, but it was more research and in a cubicle and doing data, which I like, but I also like talking to people and entrepreneurship. I've always kind of been raised that way. So real estate really, really hit it to me, and I just loved it so much. And that's what kind of transitioned me into there, where I use my strengths of my analytics and engineering skills, problem solving skills, but for real estate, where you have bigger problems in real estate. Well, different problems that involve more people issues, that it's just more enjoyable for me.
You just found your home in the real estate world.
Yeah. It just clicked with me. I was way, way passionate about it.
That's awesome. Okay, let's give the audience an idea about your guys' volume. Like on a regular month, regular year, how many transactions are you doing on the flip and fix side? And then how many folks are you property managing on the long-term hold side?
Sure thing. So on the turnkey fix and flips, we do about 250 flips a year. Yeah. Jeez. So for the past 3 years, been running through that. We're going to bust out this year into 300. That's our big goal. We're definitely going to hit that goal this year.
Nice.
On that side, we do a couple wholesales here and there, maybe 10 or 20 a year.
Yep.
Some buy and holds of our own personal here and there. And then on property management, that's owned by Reedy & Company, but my partners who own that, I help out with that company. We manage over 2,700 doors here in Memphis, Tennessee.
Jeez.
So we're one of the top 3 operators in flipping, turnkey, and also property management.
Yeah. So it's a huge operation.
Yeah. I mean, if you can combine the whole rehab division, the property management, the brokerage, the acquisitions, the sales, the turnkey, I mean, there's over 70, 80 employees full time. Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, great. And right now, okay, so you became a client back in 2018, and what happened? Like, why did you decide to hire virtual assistants, and why did you think they were good fit for the business?
Yeah. So, I mean, just things would fall through the cracks, and they're just medial things like, oh, if I just had someone who would check every week the closing HUDs to make sure something's prorated on it, or if I just had someone to fill in these numbers for me, I'd be able to know if we missed something, like checking the prices, checking the rents. With so many deals going in and out, it's hard to do. Then, someone to just kind of more free up time for me and my acquisitions and sales managers to do more of the higher end stuff. Like, hey, I could call 20 more high end clients if I didn't have to type in these numbers, or do something like that. Right. So I just felt like it was like, just thinking of like highest and best use of my current people I'm paying, almost, six figures plus, I would kind of want to help them out with some assistance so that they can focus on what they're really good at, which is being belly to belly talking with clients.
Yeah. Well, and I
Right.
love what you said, because there's this concept in real estate, the highest and best use, right? When you get a corner, you put a gas station that's high visibility, or a retail spot. Well, in leverage, which is building businesses, people have highest and best use also.
Totally.
And so what I love about what we do is we help companies like yours scale and get leverage. So I love it. How do you know, like we talked about it a little bit, our virtual assistants for you are actually doing calls, answering them live, making calls. That's innovative. I think it's smart. The administrative side is a no-brainer, but this other side on the fix and flip and the real estate acquisition side, people are like, oh, I don't know if I want a virtual assistant doing it. So what's been your experience around that?
Yeah. So I looked at the pros and cons. I was thinking of hiring just like a third-party call center where they just,
Yep.
you pay them by the minute.
Yep.
And I've heard good and bad about them. I've heard people have success with them where like, oh, they're great, and some not. And I just wanted more control. So I basically like very slowly created my own internal call center.
Yeah.
First, it was like my one ISA answering the calls live. I gave them a script, tested that person out. And then, I was like, some people have the stigma like, oh, they won't sound as good on the phone as a US citizen. But I tested it out, and actually it's a very small ratio. Just depends on the ISA that you find.
Yep.
People don't really notice the accent.
Right.
And then, so over time though, I actually now have 3 to where we can answer almost all the calls live, unless they call it like 2 to 4 in the morning.
Right.
And I just feel like is a cost to benefit ratio. And now I have control over the VAs where they know our own internal process, our own ways of scheduling an appointment or not, depending on the call and the motivation of the seller.
Yep.
So, I was just like, you know what, we're big enough. We do enough volume for me to have these 3 ISAs to really kind of take place of a third-party call center.
And are you literally, you have coverage 7 days a week, most waking hours?
Most days of the week. I mean, I'm an engineer. So I ran, when are all of our calls? When do they likely happen? What time? So
Yeah.
I have, 90% of the working week, one of our VAs is ready to answer it live. And so that's been great. The other times there's only, 2% of the calls happen that time, and we just hit them up the next day.
Yep. And answering a live call in your business is really key.
Yeah. I mean, statistically, we know that's the key. Yes.
And how do you, you actually track how many live calls you guys have versus how many you don't, or?
Yeah, I actually have created a whole scorecard for each of my VAs. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone's quoted this, but, actually maybe it's me. I just thought it was like, how can you win like a football game or a soccer game if the scoreboard is hidden the whole entire game,
Right.
and you don't even show it after the game. It's like, well, who won? What's the fun in that? So,
Right.
I'll share my screen, for those who are watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I have a whole scorecard for each one of my VAs and actually everyone on my team. And
Yep.
so, for my ISAs, how many leads, how many calls are they doing? And all these types of things, how many appointments they're setting and all these other things. Then, and then internal, they have projects completed, audits in our reports, warranties, just a lot of internal things they do. Then I also track, how many calls they answer, how many calls we get. So, we're running at around average here, 83% average of answering calls live. Then of the ones we miss, of the 20% or so we miss, we get back to 70%. And I'd say those other random, 2% of calls, there's just weird prank callers that call us anyway. So, but yeah, we're answering pretty much every call live, or if not, we're getting back to them real quick, which once we started doing that, it's been a key to our success.
So okay. And this is amazing. And I think it's very helpful for our audience to see that. If you're listening on our podcast right now, in the show notes, we'll have a link to it, a blank one, so you can kind of see what the different tasks are and what you ought to be tracking. Sean, how did you know that this was important to the team when you were kind of setting it up? Because you built all this yourself, which is a lot of work, by the way. How did you know this was the important thing to do?
I mean, so as with any employee, and person on your team, they're only as good as you as the leader trains them to be and spends the time. And at first, when I was starting off with people, I was like, oh, I have to train them, and it's so tiring. It's a waste of time. They won't remember it. But I've learned over the years that every hour I spend training and spending on with my employees, it saves me 10 to 100 to 1,000 hours, especially if they stay my employee. For
Yeah.
some of them, I'm up to, 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
And so it's only as good as you direct them, you give them the tools and the training to be. So we have a weekly team meeting. They report the scorecard. We go over the numbers. We talk about if they're struggling. We talk about if they're doing amazing, to where the other VAs kind of, have the little help and a little competitiveness with each other to stay motivated. And it's just been awesome.
So we call what you're talking about, we call it compound leverage, right? Just like compound interest. Everybody knows what compound interest is, but compound leverage, when you train somebody right, you give them a system and a process, and then you get that 2 hours a day back for the rest of your career. The one important thing is you spend that 2 hours building your business. But if you do that, then you're going to scale and grow. So Sean, you just knew that. You just knew that from the beginning, or like, how did you?
Well, I didn't know that, but I read a great book called Traction.
Oh yeah,
It's changed my life, changed our whole business. Here, it's under this stack of books here. Sorry if the camera's wibbling. Traction, Gino Wickman.
Yep.
The book to have, especially when you start getting a lot of teammates and do a lot of volume. Yeah. It's been great. And so, I figured guys smarter than me, just read up of guys that consult 50,000 businesses a year. They ought to know a thing or two of what most small businesses run into and start doing.
Yeah.
Also another tip there is whenever you are training a VA, put it on Zoom, click that record and just record the whole training you have with them. Yep. Copy paste that into a spreadsheet with a training manual. So I have a whole training manual of just conversations I've had with the VAs. Hey, if this happens, this issue, that. And so then the next one, if one leaves or if I need another one, boom, they click that binder, they watch all the videos and they get, 90% of what I've already said in the past.
How did you train the ISAs to do it? So we have this concept at MyOutDesk. We call it do it just like I would. And so that the leaders and the managers can show somebody exactly the step by 1, 2, 3, 4, like this is how I want you to do it. How did you train your ISAs who are on conversations all the time to be able to, answer those weird questions? Like I need to I saw on your list, I need to refinance, but I can't, and I need help and I want out, or, like, how do you train them with all the various different challenges that come with a fix and flip company?
Yeah. It's super overwhelming trying to take it all in 1 week. So what I do, we have an hour meeting once a week with my VAs. They come with their questions and we just write it down. So now we have all the questions ready. And then we just, I spend, a half hour of that meeting. We just do case studies. Okay, this guy called you. He asked this question. Okay, we haven't heard that. Here's how I would say it. And I really do invest an hour a week to all the VAs all together so they all understand, they know what each other's doing. And I think that's been the key, is a weekly team meeting and just investing that little bit of time and recording it to where then eventually they start, an hour a week over, 3 years now. Now it's like we're working on very proactive stuff that we never would have thought of. At the beginning, it is crazy. And so just take it one bite at a time.
What was your, did you have any failures that you learned along the way that you'd like to share so that people can do this right?
The answer is yes, of course. A lot of failures. It's hard to remember 3 years back at the beginning.
Yep.
It's what I've done is that it probably took me 3 months to figure out doing a scorecard and knowing what kind of KPIs, and it's kind of customized to each business, which mine's kind of unique.
Yep.
So definitely that scorecard. I think if you do that weekly meeting, have a scorecard in that meeting where you go over it and then just kind of talk with them and discuss and solve issues. I think that's been the key to solving it. If only I would have known, hey, this will happen. So you just spend the time, but a lot of it's just learn as you go.
Yeah. So what you're saying is there's no shortcut here to building, a call center or an admin team or an operations team. You just have to get into the work, get into the rhythm, and handle scenarios as they come.
Yeah. Then just get good at delegating, hey, I don't, I film the video, but I'm like, hey, I want you to take notes of the whole video and create it into a nice little training written out manual. So I don't have to do it because I've already said it all. And I let my VAs actually create it. And then it's a double-edged sword because then they learn because they're taking notes on the whole video and watching it again.
Yep.
So
And then you just review the
tricks.
document afterwards and be like, yeah,
Yep.
this is perfect.
Yep.
What have you seen as the return on investment? So you're 3 years in, you have 6 virtual assistants. You're doing this at a high level. What have you seen as the return on investment in your mind?
Yeah. I mean, actually, you know, in a book I read, you need at least a 300% ROI on an employee for them to actually handle your overhead and everything. But I've seen a 500 plus percent ROI from the dollars I pay them to the new deals and income and the time it's saved my other $20 to $30 per an hour people.
Yep.
Time savings. So I think definitely worth it. I mean, obviously I have 6 of them, so I wouldn't have them if I didn't think, you know, they're at least making me a decent return on investment and saving time of other people. Hard to quantify and all of that, but you know, I mean, just priceless in terms of less headaches, less issues. I don't feel as stressed like having them do kind of monotonous medial tasks. Number one, they enjoy it. You know, I mean, you find the ones that their personalities enjoy it, and I don't, and my other teammates sometimes do, sometimes don't. And so it's also nice, just like, oh, I kind of feel less guilty because they enjoy it, they love it, and they feel like they're adding value, and they are, and you know, they feel important. They're a great asset to our team.
What are some of the cultural differences? One of the questions that we get all the time is, how the heck do you work with people in the Philippines? And we've worked with over 6,000 people in our history, and you're doing it very successfully. So what are some of the learning curves on the cultural difference?
There's a big learning curve. Here's what I think the key is. And it's when I get new teammates, like I just got a marketing guy and some of my VAs help with marketing. I'm like, hey, you just got to click that Google chat and do a Google Hangout and be face-to-face at least once a week for a couple months to like get used to each other and the personality. So I think the biggest thing with your VAs or ISAs, whoever you're using, is have a weekly face-to-face on the camera chat. A lot of people try to explain it in email and all that. I click that. So they're available 24/7 on that. Because, you know, when my people here internally, I walk straight in their office. Let's solve this. Let's hash this out. So I do the same thing. Hey, we get on the call just like we are. And I pull up a Google spreadsheet and I share my screen or a Google Word doc, and we just write out all the things that we can do better and improve on, or that I want them to do. So I think that's the key is really set up your camera and your mic and make sure your ISAs have that, which all of them do if they're in MyOutDesk, and call them weekly. That's probably been the biggest. And then, so the Philippines people, they're so nice. They're very timid to talk to you and like with authority, you know. I don't know. At least I felt they're a little more timid. So what I try to do is like, hey, tell me what's wrong. Tell me what I can do better, what our team can do better. If you're doing something and you think you can do it faster, another way that I didn't tell you, tell it to me. Let's talk about it. And if it's better, I mean, let's do it. Yeah. So that's been a big one. It's just really, you need to almost like encourage that 2 or 3 times more. Where my people here, you know, at home base, I mean, I hear it all day. They'll tell me their complaints and what we're doing wrong, how I can get better. I'm like, okay, thanks. Maybe a little less. Over, you know, the Philippine people, you kind of need to encourage that a little more.
That's probably the best advice that I've heard from a client, is just encourage participation, and you have to forcefully ask them to give you advice.
Oh, and do it for 3 months, you know, until they finally are like, oh, okay. And do it good, you know, like receive it well. Like, thank you for telling me that. Number one, I'm glad you told me that, even though it's, you know, it might be somewhat of an error on their end, or like, I'm like, you know what, I'm glad you told me that, because at least now we can solve it, you know? Yeah. So I was like, at first we didn't have this live call answer until I was like, oh, wow, we're only answering like, you know, half the calls live. I'm like, what's going on? And really what it is we just had to adjust the hours of their time. And it's like, I wouldn't know that if they wouldn't have just like pointed that out to me. So,
or if you weren't tracking with a spreadsheet, right?
Yep. And the thing is that live calls answer, I say it one time in our meeting. I was like, I wonder how many we answer live. Hey, why don't you figure that out, Jess? Then the next week she has it in a spreadsheet. And then all of a sudden, every week she's doing it. I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, okay. Wow. We're doing good. So then I'm like, all right, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I love it. It's really awesome.
So you're getting a 5X return. You understand how to work with them culturally. You built systems and process and training. You do a weekly conversation with them every week. And and on top of that, your business has grown substantially. Your interior people that work in the office and they're with you in Memphis, they're happier. They're doing higher level work.
Totally.
And so what advice would you get? I mean, all of that is amazing, by the way. That's exactly what we want our clients to do when they're brand new. We might send this video out for, hey, you're brand new? Check out Sean. He's doing it right.
Right.
But what advice would you give somebody who's just now thinking about signing up and just starting?
Yeah. Well, and what's hard is like, we kind of already had a pretty big team. It's hard when you're doing a couple deals a month, and this is like, oh man, this is like 25% of my income will be going to paying this ISA. It's hard when you're starting out small, but I mean, you got to commit. You gotta let go of the vine. You got to let go of, that's what it says in the traction book. You got to let go and delegate down those tasks so that way it frees up, not only if it frees up, it just frees up that ability to explore and be creative as you have more people. Especially, I mean, I think the highest, number one I would suggest is hiring an assistant, whether that's home base or an ISA. An ISA I think would be almost better because it forces you to really train them well. Because when they're home base, you can be like kind of looking over their shoulder and training them. But if they're an ISA, you gotta really know how to train well. And it forces you to be a good leader and a manager and really clearly state out what you need because they're not right in front of you all the time.
What's interesting is I assume, and I'm kind of curious, this is a question for you. What do you think this has done to the valuation of the company? All of these systems and processes, if you had to sit down with a potential buyer for your company and you're like, here's our system, what do you think that's done for the valuation of the business?
It's worth at least $1 billion. No, I'm just kidding.
I love it.
I mean, we haven't even considered any of that, but I mean, definitely a ton of value, especially the systems. It's replicatable. Now with all the processes we have, I don't know. I mean, definitely increase the value.
Yeah.
Not $1 billion, I would hope, but not even close to that. But you can take it for that if you want.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so Mike, why would somebody not do this in your mind? I mean, I know you work with a lot of people who are like nervous about it or not really ready to kind of let go of the vine, as you would say. What causes somebody to not make this leap?
I mean, so comparing, I would say number one, if you're not tech savvy and you're not a good trainer and a leader, you're not good at systematizing anyways on your own. If you're disorganized, you might want to hire your first person as like an organized person, which could be an ISA, but maybe an operations person.
Yep.
So that someone, I mean, I guess someone who's just not, if you're not open to kind of the thought of this, maybe don't, maybe have someone, home base nearby do it for you and really figure that out first. And then when that person at home base gets good, maybe they could train an ISA. So yeah, if you're not tech savvy, can't do the video chats like this and everything, it is pretty difficult over the phone or through email. I think it'd be impossible for me. It'd be super hard if I couldn't chat face to face with them. So if you're not good at that tech stuff, I would suggest not,
Yeah. Makes
just
sense.
being honest. Yeah.
What you said you were using our folks for marketing, which is exciting for me because you have everybody now. You have calling people, you have operations people, and you marketing people.
Yes.
So what are you doing with them?
So our marketing people, they're more like assistants to our main marketing person. They just kind of make sure there's a Facebook post every day. They do little graphics and little flyers for properties. Yep. Just kind of marketing basics per the direction of our marketing director. Okay. They actually can edit videos, put an intro and an outro on it. I mean, the podcasts or videos, YouTube videos that we do, they kind of just, edit it. They can take out little basic things here and there. Then just the daily little things. They help compose the emails. Then we check them, put the properties here and there in this format. I mean, quite a bit.
So they're helping you guys basically go to market with the properties that you own, as well as helping you get new leads coming in every single day.
Yes, they're basically gathering all the info. Like if I'm an investor and I'm going to buy a house thousands of miles away from some guys in Memphis, right? As a turnkey, I'm going to want to know what repairs were done, what are some pictures of the house, when will it be completed, What's your normal processes? So our VA compiles, gathers all that info from our rehab guys. Hey, we need the pictures on this property. It's been 2 weeks. We need picture updates. We need what's going to be done. They make it all pretty into a nice format. So just compiling marketing documents and checklists. Yet again, checklists all day. You got to be good at that. They live, my VAs, my whole team, myself personally, we just live off checklists. Hey, new property. Okay. I need these 20 things to be marketed right. If I don't get this one, I know who to contact. Here's how you contact him. And that's what our RSAs do, all that internal work instead of me or my salesman gathering all that info. They're doing it for us at, a fraction of the dollar per hour cost of our time.